Hi, folks. I am Dr. Lavanya Seshasayee, India's first recovery specialist, and I'm here to answer the question: what are the familial dynamics between family carers and clients that can enable complete recovery from schizophrenia? Now, just listen to this life changing narrative. Yeah? The medical system thought all that the family carers needed to be responsible for was to ensure that the patient, as I was called then, took her medication. Yes, psychiatric medicines were certainly needed because I had a brain that required treatment. But what was just as important was support, proper support from family carers. For even when the patient decided to recover, she needed support. And for a long time, before I invented my support system called CSEAs, Client Self Empowerment and Advocacy, I had no support, and then a healing system was evolved by my compassionate, sweet mother and myself. My mother was a superpower caregiver, and she continues to be one. But before this happened, I did not feel good at all and began dreading the passing of each night into a new day. I hated clocks, for they reminded me that time was passing. I did, however, rebuild my life from the scratch and take back my full legal capacity via education, whose importance I was quick to realize. But first came survival, for that was the primordial instinct. I could for once feel the heartbeat of the mother figure who, at the end of the day, would show herself to be the only person with a heart that was forever beating for my well being, the maternal quintessence of a being that truly cared, the only being that cared for me at the end of the day. For we had been part of a common biological ecosystem, an ecosystem that had manifested itself and existed before I was even born. It was just that it had existed, nothing more, nothing less. Love ruled here and not the ego. My mother withstood her daughter, and I, the daughter, withstood my mother. We were bonded by a bond that was far, far stronger than anything that could be cultivated. By far, biology did make family more often than not. It was biology that made human beings human, mothers motherly, fathers fatherly, sisters sisterly, and brothers brotherly, and most importantly, daughters daughterly at the end of the day. But especially close would the mother and her daughter be. For at the end of the day, I was Lalita's baby daughter, Lalita's little baby doll, who was at this adult age even asking to be cradled against the warmth of Lalita's breast and body. My mother allowed me, her daughter, to suckle at her breast and reclaim the security that had remained elusive for a period of 8 whole years owing to Brother Bobby's doings before he left for America, the land of opportunities, before he left in search of greener pastures, leaving behind a distraught mother and her distraught daughter. After having attempted to create a permanent rift between us, it was suddenly no more of, "Oh, Bobby, I've lost the battle against you." It was suddenly more of, "Oh, Bobby, we're going to stand up to you and reclaim our victory, even if it means fighting against patriarchy for the next 10 years." And so my mother, with the earnest yearning to lessen her daughter's suffering, did look for cues to be able to enter and understand my world. We were bound by intuition, mother daughter intuition. So lay us, the mother and daughter, on the bed, sensing each other's warmth, the warmth of flesh against flesh, rocking against each other, though never ever in a sexual sense, never ever. We synchronized our breathing rhythms in an attempt to derive mutual security, sweating simultaneously, sensing the sweat on each other's bodies, for that was part of healing. For there was a battle for survival to be fought together with mother and daughter on the same side. Indeed, the human race had survived right through the centuries owing to this sheer desire to survive. I was asking mother to reparent me, And Lalita seemed to be conveying the following message: tell me where and how you need security, and I shall be very glad to provide you the same, my baby. I see you have a need. Let me meet your need, my little one. I will do all I can to help you survive. The Electra complex simply didn't figure here, for that had just been a temporary phase. Every day for about an hour, the bodily nexus in connection between mother and daughter was thus re-established. A mother's love in action, a mother's love in action. My spirit bonding with that of my mother's, where there was absolutely no clash of interests in the long run, at least, where the relationship was one of nurture. Yeah? You really did need to experience this to comprehend this eternal truth. Lalita, my mother, did bother about justice nowadays, now that she had done all that she had wanted to do to me. Subconsciously, of course. She felt sorry for me, her daughter who pulled the lice off her hair every now and then, a daughter who was resorting to unclean neurotic habits in an attempt to clean herself up. Was I evolving backwards? Was I regressing? Wondered my mother, whose daughter was lisping like a baby and clinging to her all the time. For the first time, the very first time, Lalita attempted to sense my feelings and think of who I was for who I was and what I have been made to become. A child woman who sometimes showed intense hate and intense love at other times toward her own mother. A child who was going to pieces, literally breaking into smithereens. A child who said, I'll suck the blood off you now. After all, that was exactly what you did to me too. When I was young, when I was a child of 13. Lalita now understood her daughter's anger. She saw through very clearly. Still, she initially attributed my so called illness to my faulty genes. I was to take some time to dispel this dirty idea that was so victim blaming. My mother and I spent a whole lot of time weeping in each other's arms because Lalita's intestines squeezed in pain every time I wept and asked her, Mommy, who will take care of me after you die? I have neither an education, nor a job, nor a career, and I'm not married either. Will I ever taste marital bliss in life? Or will I be out in the streets after your death and daddy's with nobody to care for me? Who will care for me, mother? All of a sudden, it became crystal clear to Lalita as to what she had really reduced me to. At least, she bothered to admit this at the conscious level. This saved me. Lalita acknowledged that the social environment did play a very important role in shaping one's mental condition, irrespective of genetic inheritance. She understood the need to be human and humane with me. She acknowledged the need to save me, her dying daughter, from a morbid civil and living death. She acknowledged the necessity to stop behaving in ways that irritated me, her daughter, her sensitive daughter, or to stop using words that were sure to cause a relapse. She understood the need to allow her daughter to pursue her own dreams, for people with schizophrenia were hypersensitive. Social medicine needed to be provided along with psychotropic medication only if psychotropic medication were to be needed. It was of paramount importance for people around the affected individual to change. This was exactly where traditional old school psychiatry had failed in its role to facilitate recovery. Lalita and I spent those months combating stigma. I had lost everything I had in life. So had Lalita. Lalita and I slogged together. We trudged through the sludge, through the seemingly endless mire of dirt. Ours was a heartrending fight against the world and the disabling social environment, against the world of people who had formerly egged Lalita on and on to do whatever she had done against me quite inadvertently. Lalita was now my strongest ally. She seemed to say, It's you, baby, and me, alone against this mad, mad world. The mother figure held out her strong hand for her baby daughter to clutch. I, the baby daughter, clutched my mother's hand finger by finger until I steadied myself, until I was capable of supporting myself. Together, we studied the academic lessons, sang to one another, and watched movies of disabled kids who had done something extraordinary with their lives. Kids who had found it most difficult to move their muscles, even initially. I sat on Lalita's lap 8 hours each day and studied my academic lessons. Lalita, the great caregiver, practiced Zen Buddhism. She also patiently listened and listened to every word of what I read out because I had to read my lessons aloud to be able to concentrate. Lalita agreed to do this and a lot more for me. She monitored my nutrition meticulously and celebrated every academic victory of mine. We lived the UNCRPD, which was to be framed much later. We dreamed of a new reality. A movement like ours had begun to emerge across several pockets from across the globe. A radical, life strengthening, life affirming, life altering, and dynamic perspective on how psychosocial disability could be conceptualized. We cultivated a rights based language. My mother and I lived this mysterious language of minds, sweating, communicating, and working it out together. We walked a walk together to recreate history for the umpteenth time, one step at a time, even as our souls communed with each other. A mother who was more than prepared to lay down her life to protect and nurture me, her girl baby, against the harsh, ruthless world outside. Me, the girl baby, indicating my rocketing love and immense gratitude towards the mother figure every now and then. And then something magical happened. I recovered from schizophrenia. I proved for the umpteenth time in history that mental illness wasn't mental illness, that it was a myth and that the condition could be reversed. All other user survivors had also done this in their own way, in their own time. I passed out of my bachelor's and master's degree in this manner. I didn't miss out on my psychiatric medication even for a single day. But even that wouldn't have been of much use without the special recovery system Mom and I had discovered to be able to heal fully, CSEA, Client Self Empowerment and Advocacy. When Lalita called Dr. Sulochana to tell her I'd done all of this, all that my psychiatrist, Dr. Sulochana, did was to ask a silly, ridiculous question. How did she do it? Did you take her to a different psychiatrist? I cried out to the cosmos with a heart full of joy and gratitude as I fell on my knees. I then did my PhD, wherein I was to link up women's mental health issues with psychology and other mental health sciences. I clearly conceptualized my support system. Feminist Self Advocacy FSA for psychosocially disabled women. FSA gave me wings to fly. It was later extended to men, and that was called CSEA. With this came new boundless confidence. I was to travel to several countries on my own and take part in international conferences with other professionals who were on the frontiers of mental health science and cutting edge user survivor research. They were the top people in the world as far as mental health was concerned. I questioned them, debated with them, learned from them, reasoned with them, agreed with them many a time, and tore them apart when I thought I needed to. A girl who had once upon a time been scared to travel to the bus stop nearest her house on account of a devastating mental illness was now flying across rivers and deserts, mountains and valleys, continents and oceans. Fly, it wasn't just that. I soared into the high heavens. All a consequence of a great mother's love. All a consequence of a super sensitive caregiver who learned exactly where, when, and how to let go. Matrudevo Bhava, Matrudevo Bhava. One's mother is one's goddess. The results of supported decision making, as against substituted decision making, were there for the entire world to see. This was what, granting full legal capacity, enabled psychosocially challenged individuals to achieve. Ladies and gentlemen, I know this story has left some of you in tears, but it has also given you a lot of hope, a new lease in life. That's what life is, after all. It's all about the sweet and the not so sweet experiences we have. One can reach the pinnacle of success only after one has been on a veritable journey through the depths of hell. Don't let your suffering discourage you. It is not what happens to you in life that counts, but how you respond to it and what you proactively do about it. That counts. That counts. So, if you want to explore complete recovery from schizophrenia or even depression, including bipolar disorder, stress, excessive fear, anxiety, inability to work, or anger issues for that matter, join my community called the Global Fight for Recovery. Yeah, join it. My program is titled From Mental Health Zero to Recovery Hero. Be a part of it and let it transform you and your family carers' lives. Incidentally, we call caregivers family carers. Love you a lot and thank you for listening. Subscribe to my channel if you like my message and spread the love and the word everywhere. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Dr. Lavanya Seshasayee, India's first recovery specialist, rebel, and humanist, mental health expert, and self advocate, signing off.